So down here at platform 11 3/4, outside of Yuma, in between Yuma and San Luis Rio, Colorado. So this is the border here. We've been here a couple of times. And CBP. I just talked to one of their guys, just let him know I was going to be down here for a minute. He's like, oh, okay, cool. Said, I mean, how crazy has it been since Trump took office? He goes, dude, it's been slow. So, not a lot going on. I'm not seeing a huge amount. Oh, here they are. They're all clustering. Sure. The guy I talked to is letting them know. Journalist, he's just going to poke around for a few minutes and get out of here. Of course, their concern is that I might be here to potentially pick up somebody who comes running through the underbrush here, because there's a road that goes real close to this area on the Mexico side, and water levels are low, so it's easy to get across Colorado River here. The border itself is not at the wall along this stretch. It's actually out several hundred yards. Kind of the middle of the Colorado River, which is more of just kind of a bog. I'm not seeing a huge amount of trash and stuff like I've seen in the past. I know in the past we've come along here and found IDs and foreign cash and whatnot. These people jettison their stuff and turn themselves in for asylum processing, all of which has been shut down at this point. So under Trump, the executive orders that he put out day one when he took office was to shut down most of the Biden apparatus that allowed for the migration and asylum application of huge amounts of people. That is gone now, and so spots like this are likely to be fairly quiet. People now know that they're going to have a much harder time coming across and finding a way to be able to get in and stay in, rather than being stopped and the remain in Mexico policy kicking in, where even if they make an asylum application, they have to wait it out in Mexico for whatever its conclusion is. And I mean, obviously if they are granted asylum, they can come into the US at that point, but the US is now taking a dim view of what previously had been allowed, which was lots of people coming through in spots like this, turning themselves in, and then entering the system, getting coaching by NGO lawyers and staff on the correct things to say when being questioned about why they felt they had credible fear for their life, and why they left their country of origin and why they are applying for asylum. And then, should they pass their credible fear interview, being able to get a 2 or 3 year out court date that would then allow them the chance to start working legally within 6 months of the start of that process, until such time as they get called up and have to prove what they said during their credible fear interview. So, okay, not a huge amount happening here. I'm going to be cruising along the Mexican border. I'll go through Mexicali, Tecate, and then into Tijuana. We'll check in with some of our friends there and see what's been happening since Trump took office. So I'm here in Boulevard, outside of Jacumba, and at the location, you can kind of see it up there, where I had spent the night. migrants came through. And this is the road that they come through. But obviously we've got a master locked vehicle barrier here. So can't wind up driving through, at least, which is interesting. I was going to drive down to the spot at the end of the wall where the migrants typically cross, or at least did, and see who's on guard there, if it's still the Mexican army, if it's the National Guard, or nobody, potentially. So I know that some of these trails back this direction will eventually lead me back there. So I'm probably going to do a little bit of exploring here, see if I can find my way through. Another vehicle barrier, but this one's open. I want to poke around a little bit and see if there's more evidence of people taking off cross country, shedding identification and flight manifests and stuff. But also want to see who is on duty, if anyone, right here. Guardia Nacional, they're back. Oh, interesting. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay, that is kind of surprising. Or maybe not. Some things have changed with Guardia Nacional here. They were brought in under the Mexican army. All right, so we're going to take off, head cross country here for a minute, down this path that I had found several months ago that the migrants who apparently did not want to turn themselves in were taking in order to be able to get out towards the nearest road. Okay, nothing super recent, but I am seeing at various places spots like this where somebody stopped, spent a few minutes, maybe drank some water and shredded a bunch of documentation. Prepaid card of some sort. This looks like a Turkish person. Odim Bilgeri. We've got here passenger name Eriparmak. I'm guessing that's also Turkish. These came from a little ways up the trail. Yildirim Baris. This is a ticket of some sort. This here came from up a little ways. It's kind of washed out. But it looks like we've got some kind of identity documentation. Maybe a copy of a passport. It's Chinese. Let's see, PRC. So, for sure a path that's still being used. I mean, that's all stuff that I would have seen on my last trip through here a few months ago. So I'm going to keep going down the trail a little ways, see what I can find. But I also want to get out of here before it gets too dark. Especially if somebody comes and closes that gate. I would have a hard time getting back out again. Okay, found another couple of things. So we've got looks like some kind of booking receipt for a hotel in Cancun. And then this is a piece of a ticket for an airline flight. Goes to help kind of fortify that idea that folks are flying into Mexican cities, then flying, up here towards probably Tijuana or Mexicali, and then getting dropped off up here in the hills kind of outside of Tecate before they make their push through and across the border. One thing I'm noticing as I'm kind of working my way across the border is the CBP officers that I'm seeing here in kind of the Boulevard, Jacumba area do not seem to be nearly as friendly as I've seen them in the past, where you can pull up to them and chat, have a conversation. The couple of guys that I've tried to talk to either gave me a very kind of mean stare and shook their head, or I'd pull up and they'd just, I'd get out of my car and, give them a wave, and then they just drive away. Don't make it a very pointed, like, I'm not here to talk to you. Which, yeah, that's funny. That's not what they were doing, even 3 months ago when I was here last. So let's see if we can get a little closer look at what's happening here on the Mexican side. Yep. Just getting a little closer view at their pickup there. It's got all the Guardia Nacional kind of standard markings. The Mexican Army vehicles are usually tan. I suppose it could be on loan from them, but kind of the white and black checkered uniform, which those guys had on, that's Guardia Nacional. So interesting to see them back. I know that right at the end of AMLO's, the previous Mexican president, who was succeeded by Claudia Sheinbaum in October, one of his last things that he did was to bring the Guardia Nacional under the Army as one of its branches. So the Army now controls it. It was an attempt to try and get a handle on a lot of the corruption in their National Guard. It was made up of, in part, some really corrupt former police officers because they needed manpower when they first stood up the force. And so I think the idea is bringing it in under the Army, which is kind of a known to be less corrupt, and is kind of the main vehicle that the Mexican government uses to combat cartel activities and to build big infrastructure projects, etc., etc. The idea would be that the Army can have a reforming aspect and an anti-corruption aspect or impact on the Guardia Nacional that wasn't happening on their own, let's say. So, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to get out of here. It does look fairly quiet. I didn't see any major signs of any like super recent trash or whatever, so my guess is there's just not a lot of stuff happening here. These Guardia Nacional are likely doing a better job at keeping people coming through. Do you want to point out one real quick cool gadget that I picked up? And that is this Starlink Mini, and I've got the magnetic roof rack for it. Plugs into my cigarette lighter, and so I can get high-speed internet basically anywhere that the Starlink satellites are providing service, which is all the way along the borderlands. So I was rolling in here with about 150 Mbps of satellite download speed, which was great. And listen to YouTube videos in high quality. Okay, I'll get out of here. Keep trekking.